This is going to be An-Kahet, the Old Kingdom, as a Mistweaver monk. I'm not an expert at this game, this is not a dungeon guide, this represents my personal experience at the random dungeon group. Let's see, I'm level 65 still. Something's going to happen here. I'll level up and the game does something really rude to me. I thought it happened a while ago, I talked about this before, but we'll actually get to see it in this dungeon. So right, An-Kahet, always a dungeon that I liked kind of a whole lot. This was one of my favorites in Wrath of the Lich King. Somewhere, way back before I even had the idea of doing Let's Plays and knew anything about video recording, there was a feature in WoW where you could record a video straight from the game to the hard drive. Somewhere I have a run in this dungeon on some old hard drive somewhere. Back when level 80 was the cap and Wrath of the Lich King was current, I was playing as a Discipline Priest. I should dig that up at some point. It might be cool to compare. I haven't been able to find it. I was looking for it, but I know I have it somewhere. So anyway, I leveled up. I got an ability called Reawaken. This game is extremely, extremely insistent on putting every action, action you can take on your action bar. It will just like do the rudest thing here and add more action bars to my screen without, like, it toggles a setting that it takes me like this entire dungeon run to find to toggle back. That extra action bar there above my normal one is now inaccessible to keybinds. I cannot switch to it and press any key to get to the things that are down there. I don't think I've noticed that that's happened yet. When I go to hit my roll, I probably will. But yeah, it's like I'm extremely unhappy with this particular section of this UI. Fortunately, it stops happening as you get to max level and stop getting new abilities, although there are ways to still get new abilities at the maximum level, so this problem never really goes away. I just have to learn where the setting is and untoggle it every time. There's a bunch of stuff like this, like pop-ups for things it wants you to pay attention to that just never really go away. There are some annoyances. I'm starting to understand more and more why people, whoa, you took a hefty amount of damage all at once. I was ready for it. So I'm familiar with this dungeon. Somewhere in here is a thing called an Ahn'Qahar Spellflinger. It's right in front of me. I think there are two of them in this group now. I was like super ready for this because, for one, I remember this distinctly from my previous time in this game. For another, there was a super failed run that I had in this dungeon not so long before this was recorded, where everybody wiped right in this spot because both Ahn'Qahar Spellflingers were pulled at once. Nobody knew how to handle them. They have an ability called Shadow Crash that does really heavy damage all at once and needs to be interrupted, or you have to pull just one at once and heal through it. That time when the tank lost like 2/3 of her health, was when Shadow Crash had landed. So like even on normal, even with these dungeons retuned the way that they are nowadays, it's still an extremely threatening ability. It was just a major killer back in the day, and I remembered it distinctly. So looks like during this boss a bunch of little dudes come in, and Chunky Slam here isn't being super quick at picking them up, so I'm just standing right on top of her. But the boss is already dead, so it doesn't matter much. Okay, so this is the way quest progression works here. You pick it up at the start, I guess, and then it auto-completes and you click it to go to the next stage of it or something. I failed to click one of those. I think it was in Scarlet Monastery or somewhere. Someplace like that. Hey, I'm noticing my extra weird action bar that I have down there. Alright, so when do I start really grappling with this UI? I'm kind of being kept busy here, so I don't really get a chance to mess with it much. But yeah, so Reawaken, by the way, I guess you get it at level 66. It's a full party resurrect. So you cast it once if a bunch of people are dead and they all resurrect at once. It's not an in-battle resurrection spell, it's... Is it only druids who get that? Shaman might get it too. There's one or two healing classes that can do that. I know Druid is one of them, and I think there's another... There's like some sort of engineering thing you can do to do it too. Anyway, yeah, in this room you gotta go up the spider web ramps, interact with some kind of crystal up there or something, and then a thing unlocks. I forget how it works. Anyway, so what do we have in this party anyway? So that's a warrior tank, enhancement shaman there at the top, the group leader. I see a hunter and... what's the one at the bottom? No, hang on, that's an elemental shaman? I thought cloudy blue action bar meant enhancement, but I see you standing at range and casting those things, so maybe elemental also has the weird looking mana? Again, gotta play a shaman. I will eventually. Lunagrin, what are you? Are you a mage? Yes, that's an arcane mage, I believe. Mage-looking shield. Yeah, I see... what do they call that? Arcane missiles or something? Magic missile? A purpley-looking thing that's like one of the 2 spells that arcane mages use. I forget what it's called. Ooh, that is a long nature lock. 7.5 seconds, yikes. Okay. So watch out for that, I guess. The hum of magic energy in the air diminishes, so it tells you that when, yeah, when you've interacted with all those, I guess. I don't know what it is that stops you from progressing if you don't interact with those. There's probably some sort of barrier up right around where we're standing now. Why am I sliding on the ground? Where was my run animation? Things are weird. Alright, so Prince Taldaram, nice, next boss. Oh, right, am I messing with my action bar? Kinda. But it's still busy. I didn't get the chance to really focus on it yet. So right, this dude, he's a vampire or something. He vanishes for a while for no good reason, then comes back and is like draining somebody's blood. So the tank is under his influence. I think this chooses a random party member, just like whoever gets disabled for a while. Then he disappears again. I think he does it to me next. Yeah, so I'm getting it now. Stun, shadow damage inflicted, damage to him may break this effect. So everybody else just has to hit him a lot and he'll stop it. Which is obviously what they'd be doing anyway, so it's not too serious a mechanic. Like, there's rarely a time, other than if there's some kind of like dodging mechanics you have to do. In any dungeon like this, there's almost never a time when, you know, you're fighting a boss and you're not just trying to do as much damage to them as possible. That's not strictly true, but again, like, usually it is. So you just do your normal thing and his effect breaks. Why am I not clicking that quest? What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, Curse of Tongues, right, so that makes me way slower to cast stuff. Did I just try to dispel it? That's a curse. Or was it magic? It might have been magic, actually, even though it's called Curse of Tongues. There was a leg sweep. So yeah, just stop them from doing things for a while. It's a very, very good ability, one of the best. Use it always. Some things are immune to it, but most things can be affected. Okay, so that's corruption that I'm dispelling. Got it. So Curse of Tongues isn't too bad for a Mistweaver because, like, the only situation where it'd be a real problem is if I need to cast a bunch of Vivifies, like hard cast them on a lot of different party members. if I can be channeling Soothing Mist, it doesn't change the global cooldown as far as I know, so I can still get my instant casts while that's channeling, and the ticks of Soothing Mist will be slower, but that doesn't matter too much. The larger healing comes from Enveloping Mist and Vivify if I need to cast it. But again, Vivify is just not an ability that I use all that much. I usually do my healing by other means.
These are sacred halls. Your intrusion will be met.
So Jadoga's Shadowseeker is going to do something where she becomes invulnerable and calls one of her apprentices to come forward and do something. You gotta kill it before it reaches her. It's a random one among this whole group of followers that are here. Oh, it goes to the circle and, like, gets sacrificed, and she gets, like, a huge buff from that or something? I think that's what happens. It's been a while. Doesn't take a whole lot of time for the dude to reach the circle, so... it is an actual threat of happening. So we're going pretty quick through this dungeon. We're almost at the end now. A lot of cool mechanics in here. Like, again, it's a shame that you don't see them so much. Yeah, so I can still access that by clicking, but, like, who wants to click their action bar? That's not what you want to do. You can set up keybinds to go to... Here we go. Oh, okay. I figured it out right away. So turn off bottom left action bar. Then I can scroll back to it and get to it with my keys. I thought I remember this being like a much bigger problem. Maybe I had dealt with this earlier in a dungeon that I didn't... There was like unused footage. And this was just like the second time seeing it, so I kinda knew where to go. Yeah, I thought I remembered like an entire dungeon where I was just non-stop fighting with the UI to get this thing reverted. But that didn't happen here. Okay, that must have been unused footage. Alright, well, that happened at some point. This was the second time, so I knew where to find the setting. But yeah, it does that to me every time I get a new ability. If my main action bar is full, it wants to put it somewhere, and it's going to force itself into the UI, even when I don't want it to. Alright, so last boss coming up here. Herald, whatever. They like to put extra J's in names where it doesn't make a lot of sense. This guy's cool. Has some nifty mechanics. The one I remember most is, I think it's called Insanity. He will... so preemptive use of Life Cocoon there. I don't use that ability preemptively anymore. I only use it when heavy damage has already happened. Yeah, there's Insanity. And I want to shield the whoever needs it from taking more while I get my heals rolling. Yeah, so my whole party looks like an enemy for a moment. That broke very quickly. You just have to attack the, like, imagined projections of them. It's pretty cool. He does it twice. It's kind of a shame it breaks so quickly in this mode. Because, yeah, you get this little solo experience where you fight projections of your own party members, and they kind of retain their abilities and do, like, things to you. I'll sometimes come out of that and see a bunch of debuffs on people that are, like, the sort of thing that those party members would normally be applying to enemies. It's neat. At least I think that happens here. That happens in other places where that kind of mechanic occurs. Anyway, cool. That's Anka Het. Really cool dungeon. Yeah, see you for the next one, I guess.